Hi guys, and welcome to another Divi theme video. This is Jamie from System22 and webdesignandtechtips.com. Well, we got a little Divi hover effect for you today. We've got an image there. When we hover over it, the image is going to change and a call to action is going to drop down. Just like that. That's pretty eye-catching. If people are mousing around your site and a mouse hits that, it's going to get their attention pretty quickly, which is what you want with a website. This is really easy to do. We're not using any extra coding or plugins to do this today, just using the inbuilt features of the great Divi theme. So let's get started. I'm going to enable the Visual Builder. And let's go down and I'll delete this actual row that I've got here. Okay, let's add a new row. I'm going to make it 2 columns. Obviously this will work with however many you want. Inside there, I'm going to put a call to action module because that's what we're going to have dropping down. Now this will work with pretty much any module you like here, but I'm using a call to action today purely for the button. And there it is. Now before I do anything, I'm going to drag this up the top. There we go. Okay, there's our call to action. Let's just go in there. You've got a section with the blue tab, you've got a row with the green tab, and the actual module is a dark tab here. Hit the little cog to get into the edit mode. I'm going to leave my title just like that. Obviously put your title in there, put whatever your button wants to say in there, and as you may have noticed, there's no button there at the moment. The button won't show up till we put the actual link in with the call to action module. And down below, here's where you put your content, and like any other text module, you can align it, you can add paragraphs and headings if you want to. You can bold, italicize, link things, and even add media if you want to. Again, I'm going to leave mine just like that. Now if we roll down a little bit, here's our link. This is where you put in the button link. I haven't got a real URL, so I'm just going to put a hashtag. Once I put in that in there, you'll see the button appear. There we go. And best practice, if you're linking to your own site, leave it in the same window. If you're linking off-site, open it in a new tab so your site stays open. That's great. Now if you wanted the actual whole module to link to somewhere and the button to link to somewhere else, or both to link to the same thing if you wanted to, you can put another link in the module link right here. Same best practices. Okay, background wise, at the moment I'm going to put a black in, but I'm going to bring the opacity or transparency down to about 50% or so. We may want to adjust this later on. What this is going to do is once we put an image in, it'll make it stand out a little bit better against the background. Okay, so we've got a call to action module there. And what do we actually want it to do? Well, we don't want to see it at all when we're not hovering over it. It wants to be up here out of the way somewhere. And then when we hover over it, it wants to drop down and appear again. So we want to have something in there that we can look at while it's out of the way, and that's where the image swap comes in. So let's just say what we've got with this module right here. I'm going to go into the actual row, the green tab right here. Now we've got 2 columns, 1, 2. First one is left, second one's right. So I'm going to go into the first one where we're working. I'm going to go down to background, and I'm going to add a background image. You've got color, gradient, image, or video. So I'm going to click on image, and let's add the image that we want to see initially. So this is the first thing we're going to see before any hover comes in. So I'm going to put the little dolphins in there. There we are. You can see it's appeared behind, and that dark background has made it a bit darker right there, which will help to get our writing read easily against the background there, but it's not going to be there initially. Now we want to set a different image for when we're actually hovering over that column, and to do that, and this is common to most Divi modules, hover over the black writing up here, you'll see some icons appear. If there's an arrow, we can set a desktop state when the mouse is not on it, we've got that image, and we can set a hover state when the mouse is on it and use a completely different image here if we want to. So I'm going to just click on that and we'll add a different image. I think that's what I used last time. Okay, so we're going to have that image when it hovers and this image when it's not hovering. Now, because we're going to throw this module up out of the way here and we don't want to see it, we need to turn the overflow off, because whenever there's a column and things jump outside of it with negative margins and things, it's called overflow. So what I'm going to do is go over to the Advanced tab. We're still in our column settings, down to Visibility. And here you'll find horizontal and vertical overflow. I'm going to put both of these to hidden. Now you may think, well, there's no reason to put the horizontal because we're not going left and right. If you just do one, you're going to end up with a little slider, either up and down or left to right. So I'm going to do both there. So there we go. I'm pretty happy with that. Let's go back into our module and make the magic happen. So I'm going to go back into the module. Now, what do we want it to do? I want to shoot it up to the top there, so I'm going to go over to Design. I'm going to go down to Spacing. And I'm going to give it a margin on top of negative, let's give it negative 400. And that'll shoot it way up the top there. As you can see, it's disappeared, but so is our background, because the column has no height now to give it any background. So I'm going to give it some padding on the bottom to stretch it where we need it. And so I'm going to give it about 450 because I want a bit of padding below the button. So I'm going to say 450 pixels, and you adjust yours obviously to how you want it. And there's our image back. But it's still got that overlay over it, and I don't want that overlay over it. So we'll adjust that in a minute. But what I'm going to do now is adjust the hover state. Now here's the margin. And again, we've got a little arrow there. So when we hover over it, we just want to see that dolphin image that we've got there. When we're not hovering over it, when we're not hovering over it, we want to see the image. When we are hovering over it, a little arrow right there, I'm going to put a 0 in there so it's back to normal. And we need to take our padding away on the bottom. So we'll go roll over the padding, hit the little arrow again, and make sure you don't put it up here by mistake because it won't work. So desktop, when it's out of the way, that's fine. When we hover over it, we'll put a 0 in, but that button's going to be a bit too close to the bottom. If I demonstrate, see the button's flush to the bottom there. We want to give it a bit of breathing space. So I'm going to give it, say, 50 pixels. Obviously you make yours how you want. So when we hover over, that's what we're going to see. When we're not hovering over, that's what we're going to see. Now the column didn't change because we're not actually setting the hover state for that, but when we go live in a minute, it will change because we're hovering over both elements there. Okay. Now what I want to do also while I am here is I'm going to go back into my content. I'm going to go to the background. I'm actually going to take that away on regular. So again, we're going to go to the dark legending, little arrow. Let's get rid of this. And I'm going to go to hover. And as you can see, we've got it there, but I want to darken out the background a bit so that writing's a bit more legible, even though we're going to be looking at a different image. So let's go put that color back in. We'll put the opacity down to where you want it. Something like that, probably. So you can read everything and see the button. Obviously, you can style your button, your heading, and your content any way you want in the call to action by going over to design. Title text. As usual, you've got all the things. You can choose a font. Divi has a crazy amount of font. There are literally hundreds of fonts. And to audition one, just hover over it. It'll show you an example. I'm happy to stick with the default. You can change the weight, text alignment, uppercase, lowercase, however you want to put yours. Color, obviously, text size, letter spacing, and line height. And you can do similar for the body text. And if you want to style the button, make it your own. We're using the default at the moment. Just go in here, hit the little switch, and you can make your button your own. Give it text colors, background colors. And again, if you hover over and hit the little arrow, you can change the hover state of most of these things here. So I think I'm in pretty good shape here. So I'm going to save this. One thing I will show you actually before I save is when you adjust with negative margins, sometimes it's hard to get back into that module. As you can see, when I hover over, there's no dark tab for the module. If you have trouble getting back in there, because our module is actually up here now, hit the little purple button at the bottom and you can go to wireframe mode, which is this little icon over on the left hand side, and it makes it very easy to get things. Here's our call to action. We can get back in there. Now, I haven't changed any timings on this. Usually I slow these things down, but for this one today I quite like it to be happening fast. Default timing with Divi, let's just change this back to desktop. Default timing with Divi is 300 milliseconds, which is just under a third of a second, which is pretty quick. If you want to change that, slow it down, or even speed it up, go over to your Advanced tab and go down to Transitions. And there you've got a transition duration. There's the default 300. You can slide it up and down or type in a value if you want to. I'm going to leave mine on 300 because that actually works quite well for me today. I tend to use an ease in, ease out speed curve. They're all slightly different. Some will work better than others in certain situations, so check them out. But for most hover effects, I like to use this ease in and ease out. So let's save this. We'll save the draft. And let's exit our Visual Builder. So there's our image. We're hovering around, we'll hover over it, and the image swaps, and we got that drop down call to action right there. And like I say, we've got a slight dark background on that. And as I say, we've got a slight dark background on that hover state to make that text stand out better, and that's pretty legible to me. So there you go, guys. There's an image swap with drop down call to action. So I hope you've enjoyed this today and found it useful. If you have, please give it a thumbs up, ring the bell, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Once again, this has been Jamie. And don't forget to check out our playlist below for plenty more Divi hover effects. Once again, this has been Jamie from System22 and webdesignandtechtips.com. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.